So one way to make things easier for yourself is to think about how endorphins work. Um, Exercise is painful, especially when it's high intensity. So the body produces endorphins that are painkillers, but also addictive substances. Um, so for example, if you go for a jog, um, jogging is really fairly high intensity. The first 10 minutes are often unpleasant, and especially when you're out of shape. But if you keep in mind the fact that it does get easier, that your endorphins will get released after 10 or 12 minutes, normally you should feel all of a sudden that the running is easier, that those ill feelings that you had up until then that just made you want to quit are gone, and then all of a sudden it's a different thing. Now you're just running, and so be patient. Keep in mind that fact that you have to keep those 10, 12 minutes, that you have to keep yourself going for that long. And also, the nice thing about this is that, again, your body adapts, and with time and habit, the endorphin reaction becomes stronger and it comes faster. So it doesn't take 10, 12 minutes before you start feeling okay from your run. From the very beginning, things are easier, in part because there's less pain since your body has adapted the ligaments and muscle and everything else, but also just because the endorphins are being released more aggressively. And one of the nicest things about endorphins is that you do become addicted to them. So if you work out, if you get into the habit of working out pretty at high intensity, you're going to get addicted, and it's really interesting. You'll be sitting in the middle of the day, doing nothing, and you're gonna feel a strong craving and urge to go work out because your body's gonna want those endorphins. And when you get to that point, that's when exercise becomes really, really easy. And that's again one of the reasons why there are people who are able to stay in shape easily, and in a way that's not taking away all of their willpower, where for them, and once you're addicted to endorphins, it's not a question. You don't have to push yourself to work out. You kind of have to almost push yourself not to work out. So but again, endorphins really are released mostly with high intensity exercise, and so things like jogging and so on are excellent for it. Weightlifting, I don't think is all that good at bringing about this addiction and so on. The one thing to keep in mind with exercise, though, is the risk of injuries. Um, in general, your body adapts to lack of exercise by reducing the amount of muscle, but also reducing the strength of your tendons and ligaments. And so generally you end up in a situation where your muscle is able to do a whole lot more than what your tendons and ligaments can support, especially in kind of high impact activity, and even walking, where generally we walk on very hard surfaces like cement, sidewalks, and so on. Every step you take, especially if you're overweight, but just in general, every step you take puts a lot of tension and strain on all those different parts of the body. And if you don't give yourself time to adapt, if you don't give yourself time to recover, if you don't take proper care of yourself, like for example, stretching is an important thing. If your muscles get too tight, that can lead to tendinitis. So notice when your body's getting too tight and make sure that you stretch. But overall, in the first couple months when you're getting back in shape, your focus should be on never forgetting the fact that you're actually out of shape, and never pushing yourself too hard, because it's a real shame to put yourself through all that difficulty of that beginning of exercise, of getting into the habit, only to see yourself get injured and then be completely unable to work out, and also be dealing with that injury and so on. And some injuries really stay with you for a very long time. Um, uh, so make sure you know what you're doing. If you're new to exercise, get someone to teach you and read books and so on. But also be be particularly careful when it comes to competitive sports like soccer and tennis, because um, it's really hard to hold yourself back when you're playing these kinds of sports or games, I guess. You're playing in a team, everybody's counting on you, and your opponent's counting on you really to keep the game interesting. It's very difficult to hold yourself back, and it's no surprise that there's a certain type of person who in their 30s ends up blowing their ACL. It's because they're playing those sports that they're not fit enough to play at that point in time. And we all forget again how we're out of shape, and we all remember all too well how we used to be able to do certain things. Well, if these are the sports you want to do, you might really be best off spending a month or two getting back in shape and doing training before you start playing, because otherwise you're gonna blow something, and then you're gonna be in worse shape than before.